Welcome to the Wolffpack Fitness Podcast with your host, Adrian Wolff. I'm a PhD student in interdisciplinary health sciences with a master's degree in kinesiology and a bachelor's degree in psychology. I've been a fitness coach for over 10 years and I've trained everyone from everyday gym goers to kids to Division I collegiate and professional athletes. My mission is to provide you with actionable knowledge in the areas of fitness, nutrition, stress management, and psychology to help you live your best life every day. Let's get to the show. All right, hello everyone. Welcome to my first episode of the Wolffpack Fitness Podcast. If you're listening to this podcast, you are officially part of the Wolffpack, so you should feel pretty pumped about that. So maybe someday I'll have some merch available for the original listeners that stuck with me if this podcast keeps going for a while. So let's see how it goes. So my goals for this podcast are to publish at least one episode every other week. Really shooting for once per week, but life gets busy, occasionally. So we'll see how it goes, all right? But I really want to do one per week, but at a bare minimum, I'll make sure to get you guys one every other week. So I'm doing this to help people like yourself optimize their health and fitness by sharing actionable knowledge. So something you can use right away to improve your lifestyle. So I want to share findings in scientific research articles in the areas of fitness, nutrition, stress management, and psychology, which is actually the first topic in this episode. And I want to make them more easily digestible to everyday people. So research articles can be pretty daunting. And I know you guys all have very busy schedules, so let me simplify the science for you so you can make the best decisions regarding your health based on the research. I also want to share my personal experiences from my own fitness training, lifestyle, and my work with previous clients as anecdotes to help you tailor the main topic of each episode to your own unique circumstances. So got to remember everyone's an individual. We're all unique and have our own unique situations. So the podcasts will be packed with tons of valuable information that you can put to use right after you're done listening. So today's main topic is the best way to start and maintain an exercise program. So this is for you if you're completely new to a structured exercise program, or if you've been out of the game for a while, out of shape, and you want to get back in shape. So why is this topic so important? Well, so many people are struggling with weight loss and health issues these days, and there is so much confusion in the fitness industry about which types of exercise programs are, quote, the best. I love that one, the best. What does that even mean? So, in fact, some of my future episodes will help clarify this confusion and provide you with evidence-based scientific knowledge about how different exercise types and routines work to give you the best individualized results. Cookie-cutter approaches may work in the beginning, but if they're not right for your individual needs, then they will likely not be sustainable. So how is our modern lifestyle impacting your ability to start and maintain an exercise program? And what is the psychology behind making exercise a habit? That's what this episode is about. I'm going to cover some of the major barriers to exercise that you may or may not already be aware of and help you understand how your attitudes, beliefs, and perceived control over your own situation play into your ability to begin and maintain an exercise routine. So those are going to be first in the episode, and then I'm going to cover some of the obstacles at the end and what you can do about them. So first off, you want to seriously consider making exercise a part of your lifestyle and who you are. You want to make it a part of your identity, not just something to try and stop frequently, like yo-yo dieting. Also, like getting that, quote, beach bod ready. So as I'm recording this, summer is right around the corner. I'm sure many people are thinking about that already, getting that beach bod ready. So that's not really a sustainable reason, to make exercise a part of your life. Another reason might be fitting into your wedding attire or making it your New Year's resolution. Okay, but how do you actually make this a part of your lifestyle? How do you actually do this? It sounds easier said than done, right? You're absolutely right. it is easier said than done. Okay, but it's not impossible. That's why I'm here to help you guys. Okay, so let's discuss some of the psychology behind starting and maintaining an exercise routine and how you can break through any barriers that are in your way. So there was a really fascinating article that I read recently in the Journal of Health Education Research. It was actually published back in 1997, but it is awesome. Provides you with a really good understanding of what's going on in your mind that you may not even be consciously aware of when you're trying to figure out how to make exercise a part of your life. And they did a really good job explaining the psychological process of how we start exercising and eventually make it more automatic, which is what we all want, right? We want to make exercise that habit that we don't even need to think about. So in the beginning, there are a lot of factors involved. You're very prone to falling off the wagon for various reasons, but as you continue through the process, you'll find that the conscious effort involved in getting yourself to exercise is going to gradually diminish. That's the end goal, making it a habit. In the paper, there are two theories involved in the decision-making process when you're first beginning to consider exercising. So the first one, and don't get lost here, I'm not going to overcomplicate it or anything. I'm here to actually simplify it for you. Okay? There's going to be some big words, no big deal. I'm going to explain what they mean. Okay? So the first theory is the theory of reasoned action. So this theory tells us that our attitudes towards exercise regarding whether or not we believe the benefits outweigh the negative consequences of it, together with subjective norms, meaning the social pressure we experience regarding exercise, play an important role in determining whether or not we exercise. Okay, so that's a big thing about what this first podcast episode is about, for you to start becoming aware of what's involved and what's going on in your head when you're even thinking about making exercise a part of your routine. So if you adopt an attitude that there is more to gain than to lose from exercise, and you have healthy social pressure from either society or close friends or family encouraging you to do so, you are more likely to start developing plans to exercise. And healthy social pressure can also come in the form of observing others you admire or strive to emulate or be like. So I use the term healthy social pressure because unhealthy social pressure, for example, other people picking on you to start exercising because of your weight or your health, is likely to make you resentful and rebellious towards exercise, and also the people that are exerting that pressure on you. Healthy encouragement from others would look like a friend offering to bring you along for a long walk after work as a way of getting outside, or chatting, or de-stressing after a tough work day. All right? So it has to be healthy social pressure. If you're the person exhibiting that social pressure towards someone you want to start exercising, really think hard about how you are doing it. Your words matter. The way you exert that pressure matters. All right? If you've been on somebody to start exercising for a while and they just won't budge, you need to look within yourself. How are you saying what you're trying to get across? All right, more than likely, it's not that particular person, all right, that needs to start exercising. It's not within them. It's how you're coming across. Okay, are you doing it for the right reasons? Consider how your words are interpreted by the other person. Put yourself in their shoes and think about how they might respond to what you're saying prior to actually saying it. Okay, so that's the first theory. And the next theory is the theory of planned behavior. So this theory tells us that our perceived control, okay, not our actual control, how you perceive how much control you have over your situation strongly influences whether or not you will exercise. In other words, 1, if you believe you have neither the skills nor the opportunities to exercise, you are unlikely to form the intentions to exercise, even if you have favorable attitudes and social pressure towards it. And 2, the fewer skills and opportunities you actually possess, or your perceived skills and opportunities, And the more obstacles you anticipate, the less likely you are to act on your intentions to exercise. So, how do you apply this theory to your situation? The key words here are skills, opportunities, and obstacles. If you truly believe, you don't have the skills to exercise, this can be in the form of believing you lack athleticism, or you don't have the knowledge about how to start, or you believe you're terrible at planning. You need to be honest with yourself and come to terms with where your current abilities are, and choosing a form of exercise that you're confident in trying first. So set your ego aside. Forget the stupid, unrealistic pictures on social media of these people with sculpted abs and meet yourself with where you are currently at and start progressing forward. If you believe you don't have the opportunities to exercise, this can be in the form of, oh, work is too busy, or the kids dictate my schedule, or I just don't have time to go to the gym. Know that when you make a choice to prioritize your long-term health and the way exercise makes you feel, for example, more energized, confident, and compassionate towards others, instead of aesthetics or how your body looks, you will begin to find time in your schedule that you didn't even know was there. Okay? So the key word is a choice. You have to make a choice, and you have to prioritize it in your life. If you don't, you're always going to make the excuse of, I have no time. Okay? For parents, it will not always be ideal. Right? I'm not a parent. I don't have any kids yet. I don't have any kids yet, maybe someday. Right? But I've worked with a lot of parents. So oftentimes, your kids will need to be around you. You may need to briefly pause your workout to attend to their needs, or even cut it short. But that's the life of a parent, right? That's what you chose, okay? Other times, you may find that you can finish your workout uninterrupted. Cherish those times, right? They're probably few and far between, and you probably know it, okay? Cherish those times. Congratulate yourself for those times. Make the most out of them. If you're a busy person with long work days and no kids, it may not be ideal either. Perhaps you make it to the gym most of the week. Then you have to travel the next week. And you have to skip the gym most days because you're with clients or in a business meeting or something like that. And it's okay. It's okay. That's your lifestyle. You don't have to give up. Your workouts don't need to be perfect. Knock out some body weight exercises in the hotel room before you leave. Get a shorter 20-minute bike ride done in the hotel's fitness center, or find ways to walk more or take the stairs throughout the day. The point is, if you make a conscious decision to prioritize your health and fitness, your brain will always be looking for ways to exercise, even if they're not a part of a structured program. We want to get our brains wired that way, that health, exercise, fitness is a priority. Both of these theories emphasize the deliberate character of individual choice. The decision to start an exercise program is made consciously, which follows from your belief that exercising is associated with more favorable outcomes compared to not exercising. You have to believe it, even if you're not seeing it at first. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. It also comes from your conviction, all right, your firmly held belief or opinion that you do possess the opportunities and skills to exercise, and you will obtain the favorable outcomes. All right, so my main takeaways from these theories are that the decision to start an exercise program lies solely with you, despite any external influences. It is your choice. Every day you choose to either be active or inactive, to bring yourself closer to ideal health or further away from it. And this choice is strongly influenced by your perceived control over your situation. If you perceive you lack the skills, like you have inadequate exercise form, or flexibility, or knowledge of what you're doing, you have no idea what you're doing, and the opportunities like no time, no gym membership, conflicting priorities, then you are unlikely to exercise, even if you know you should be doing it. And even if you speak with your friends and family about doing it. It all starts with your self-talk and attitude about starting the exercise routine. If you instead perceive that you do have the skills and opportunities to start exercising by prioritizing your health, finding time in your schedule, and educating yourself through credible health and fitness sources like this podcast, shameless plug, you are more likely to start. So remember, it all begins with a conscious decision to do so. And I am repeating myself a lot with this conscious decision thing because it is always up to you and it's always your choice to do so. All right? And then it becomes an unconscious habit if you stick with it long enough. So, how does exercise become habitual? One of the most important points to start with is that decisions to continue exercising are strongly influenced by the experiences you gained from previous exercise, meaning the exercise behavior produces feedback, either positive or negative, that influences your subsequent attitudes, all right, your attitudes after you perform the exercise, and your perceptions of the previously mentioned social norms and control. In other words, say you finish your first exercise session in a new routine, and your decision to come back and complete the second session is strongly dependent on whether you perceive the first session as successful or unsuccessful. So how you define success, right? How you define it dictates your attitudes about why the exercise session was a success or failure. For example, if you define the success of your first session as perfection, meaning a combination of these things I'm about to list. For example, getting to the gym exactly at 6 a.m. or 5 minutes early, and having the exercise equipment you want immediately available to you, and spending no less than 30 minutes on the bike, you will be discouraged if any one of those requirements is not met. Therefore, you will likely view the first session as a failure, and your desire for coming back for a second session will be reduced, all right, thus making it less likely of forming a habit. However, if you define success of your first session as just getting to the gym, plus or minus 10 minutes of 6 a.m., and spending the rest of the hour familiarizing yourself with the equipment and getting at least 10 to 15 minutes of time on the bike, you are more likely to meet this goal and view your first session as a success. And so there was a lot of opportunity for success right there. You didn't define success so strictly in that second example. Leave yourself some room for flexibility, okay? Life is not perfect. Neither are you, neither am I. So then, when you plan to come back for your next session, you have more confidence in yourself. For example, you have more skill developed from familiarizing yourself with the equipment and what it does, what's around, all right, and congratulating yourself for even getting to the gym. All right, let's not forget about that, right? Even getting to the gym is a big deal if you're first starting. And you are more likely to repeat the behavior, and the behavior is exercise. So the next point is that repeated behaviors may be largely determined by habit rather than by reasoned action. Okay, so reasoned action, that was in the beginning where we were talking about, okay, it takes a lot more conscious thought, all right, and overcoming that mental inertia, all right, at first to do your first few exercise sessions, all right. So as you continue on, they're more dictated by habit or automaticity. Okay, and this is a good thing for you. Okay, now stick with me for this one while you use a little bit of jargon. Okay, behavioral decision theorists would say habitual decisions may be the product of an earlier, more recent strategy which has become mechanical in order to realize the economy of not having to go through the whole strategy selection process each time the decision task is encountered. Okay, so in other words, when a behavior like exercise is performed many times, you will end up not needing to go through the whole process of weighing pros and cons or evaluate your perceived attitudes and control in order to make the choice to exercise. So I like to say that the mental inertia associated with exercising begins to diminish. And inertia, essentially, just in physics, or it's a physics term, is basically your ability to overcome a object that's not moving. Okay, so in psychology, I like to use mental inertia a lot too, is when you're first starting a new exercise routine or a new behavior, there is a ton of inertia just to get going. All right. But when you turn the exercise into habit, any next attempt to exercise will automatically be triggered by something called specific situational cues. So a couple examples of specific situational cues are, say, time. So 5 p.m. hits, and that means it's time to go to the 5:30 p.m. fitness class. Or in action. You and your friend agreed to work out together in the garage gym 3 days per week. So you know that you need to be ready tomorrow morning when they arrive. Or a goal. You set a goal of running your first 5K. So the importance of achieving this goal dictates that you run on specific days each week. So those are examples of some specific situational cues, right? These things are cueing you to behave in a specific way. So once you get to the point where you don't even need to think about exercising and it's automatic based on some specific situational cue, you know you've created a habit, and that is awesome. So how long does it take to make exercise a true habit that you can build into your lifestyle? This one's kind of all over the place, but scientific research says that it varies widely, right, due to many different factors from person to person. So it could take anywhere from 2 to 8 months. Okay, this is a very wide range, but the average is around 66 days. So the most important thing to consider is the frequency of your desired habit, rather than how many days it takes. Don't be so hung up about the days. You need repetitions, frequency, doing the behavior over and over and over. So make your habit of exercising more frequent, but progress prudently. Okay, so be smart about it. All right, don't just set a goal of getting to the gym 7 days a week and not ever giving yourself any, grace or any leniency, right, in getting there. All right, so progress smartly, and also so you don't hurt yourself. And don't worry as much about how long it takes, and you'll find that it becomes a habit sooner rather than later. Okay, so in addition to that, I strongly recommend reading the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. All right, so check out that book. All right, and you're going to learn a lot more about building better habits into your life. So next, I'm going to bring everything you just learned together for you into a model called the model of physical exercise and habit formation. So this is basically just a series of steps that you go through in your head whenever you're consciously deciding to exercise, or unconsciously if you've developed a habit. So step 1, your decisions to exercise, and this is kind of like rehashing what I've already talked about, but we're kind of bringing everything together at this point. So your decisions to exercise occur in and are influenced by the social and physical environment surrounding you. For example, persuasive messages about exercise in the media, or social pressure experienced from friends or family, or observing those close to you exercise. Number 2, whenever you feel a need to exercise, you will consider your perceived attitudes and control associated with the exercise in order to form an intention and come to a choice. If you have insufficient information To make a choice, you will more than likely look for it through various resources to validate your perceptions. For example, like listening to this podcast episode, or going online and reading a few articles about different types of exercise. Number 3, once the goal to exercise is set, your deliberately formed intention will be implemented, resulting in actual performance, which is the behavior of exercising. 4, once you complete the behavior, which is the exercise for the first time, you will have a pleasant or unpleasant experience. This will shape your attitude and perception of control toward the exercise for the next time you attempt to do it. So after your first exercise experience, you will use your new perception of the experience to make your next decision about whether or not to exercise. An important concept to consider here is something called attribution theory, which explains how you interpret the success or failure of your exercise session by attributing the success or failure to something within your control or out of your control. For example, if you interpret your exercise session as a failure, you may attribute the failure to the fact that all the exercise equipment was taken and you ran out of time, rather than focusing on what was in your control, like perhaps doing some bodyweight exercises while you waited. A more productive approach would be to set realistic expectations prior to your exercise session and view it as a success and attribute the success to your own personality traits, like being conscientious, by congratulating yourself for finding a way to still do some bodyweight exercises even though your ideal gym equipment was taken. This will positively influence your attitudes and perception of control and make it more likely for you to come back for your next session. 5, after you have some successful experiences through practice and repetition, which are really important, practice and repetition, the contemplative decision process will gradually change into a more heuristic one through your memory of these past experiences. So let me explain heuristics. Heuristics will develop because the trade-offs between the cost and benefits of exercising and beliefs about your control over exercising don't need to be considered as much because the outcomes are readily retrievable from your memory. So, to simplify it a little bit, a heuristic choice process is a kind of cognitive shortcut. And cognition simply means the process of thought, how we think about things. So, a heuristic, this shortcut decision-making process, it lies somewhere on the continuum between conscious choice and habit. So if you were to draw one horizontal line on a paper and put conscious choice on the left side and habit on the right side as a way of making decisions, a heuristic would be somewhere in between those two. All right, so it's somewhat conscious, but not really. You're finding a shortcut or a way of thinking about how to exercise, all right, in this way. So it's more so leading towards the habit. It's in the process of becoming a habit, but it's not quite there yet. So for example, you don't scrutinize all the consequences of exercising, but you very quickly consider the most noticeable or attention-grabbing advantages of the exercise to determine if the same behavior of exercise can be achieved again. And you're well on your way toward building a habit here. So as exercise continues to be performed and events occur together, all right, also known as a habit stack, these events will be combined into a single episodic instance. So what started as a sequence of actions that you had to consciously think about, so like one leading to the next, like, oh, okay, I got home, and then that led to putting on shoes, and then that led to putting on my exercise gear, all right, and then that led to the exercise where you had to like consciously think about it. in this sequence of actions, at this point, it's going to become one procedural mega step, right? So all these this sequence of little actions start to become one. They start to become one big step. And this one big step, or as we want in exercise behavior, is triggered by the situational cues that I mentioned before. And your need for deliberation gradually diminishes while a habit is formed. So at this step, where you have those situational cues triggering your exercise behavior, that's when you know that you have a habit formed, right? So in summary, the initiation of exercise is largely determined by deliberate decision making, right? So when you're first starting out, through a conscious choice influenced by your attitudes, experienced social pressure, and your perceived behavioral control. With continued repetition and more practice, this conscious decisional process of exercise gradually shifts from an extensive to a rather automatic one through the use of heuristics, right, in between the conscious process and habits. And these heuristics are your cognitive shortcuts. So eventually, a habit will be formed that no longer needs to be guided by reasoned considerations. And that's where we all want to get to, all right, is making the exercise a habit that we don't even need to think about. So I want to conclude this podcast episode by covering some common obstacles to developing an exercise habit. So there are many, but I'm going to hit on some of the most frequent ones that people come into contact with and provide you with some strategies to mitigate them. So also be sure to stick around after I cover the obstacles for your action item to do this week. Okay, so I always end every episode with an action item or a challenge for you to work on throughout the week. So first off, as far as obstacles go, the first one is that you may not be informed about which types of exercise promote health and weight loss, or that a sedentary lifestyle will even have negative effect for your long-term health. So therefore, you have no motivation to exercise because you're not even aware of the benefits of exercising or the cost of not exercising. So you can fix this by continuing to listen to podcasts like this one, or read articles and books from credible sources. So a couple good websites to get you started are, I really love listening to these guys. Their podcast is called Mind Pump. Okay, so they have a website called mindpumpmedia.com, and I'll link to it in the show notes down below. And one other website that is great, and it's evidence-based, and they have all their articles are reviewed by MDs, and they use scientific research to back all their information, is Healthline. Okay, and if you go to healthline.com/fitness, you can find a whole bunch of good articles on different fitness strategies. And then one of my favorite books to get you started in your exercise journey is The Primal Blueprint by Mark Sisson. And I'll also link to that below. So it's an awesome book, and I really like his approach to nutrition, sleep, exercise, how to get the most bang for your buck with all those things. So definitely check that one out. So the next obstacle is, despite your beliefs that exercise is healthy, it may not seem desirable enough for you. So you may have the knowledge of the interplay between exercise and health, but it doesn't seem enjoyable to you, which is fair, okay? All right, even me, all right, I've been exercising routinely since high school, and I guess you could argue that, I really started at like age 5 because that's when I laced up the skates and I got on the ice and I started playing competitive ice hockey around that age. So I've really been athletic and, exercising for a really long time. But my structured exercise routine in the gym didn't really start until high school. All right, but I kept it going from there. But anyway, I'm kind of veering off track here. So the point is that I'm trying to get to is that even for me, all right, someone who's been exercising for decades, all right, I don't always enjoy it. It hurts. It's in a good way. All right, it can be challenging. All right, every time you go. Some days I just do not want to do it, but I have a lot of different motivators to do it, so I still go. And I realize, that I'm not perfect. So some days I am going to miss, but I don't allow that to derail me, for for a long time, like months on end. Okay. So the point is, it's not always going to be enjoyable, right? You have to find other ways, right? Make it a social thing, by going with friends or talking to people, while you're going, for example. So, so you may base your decision to exercise on other non-health related consequences. Like I just said, making it a more social thing. So you can fix that obstacle, right, by committing to exercise with a friend and make it a social event and challenge each other. Hold each other accountable. You can also join a group fitness class that emphasizes exercises that you enjoy, right, like cardio, resistance training, or even a combination of both cardio and resistance training. And like I said, use it to meet other people. So the next obstacle is after trying to exercise and learning about how difficult it is, you may stop doing it. So this may be because your expected outcomes were not immediately obtained, basically because they are only visible in the long term, or you have unrealistic expectations set for yourself. So you might also encounter unanticipated negative consequences like excessive soreness from pushing your body too hard too quickly, which a lot of people do. Right? That's why you need to learn how to progress smartly and make sure you're not burning out, right? Because all you're going to see is, oh, I'm so sore, every single day, I have no energy, right? So that can derail people quite frequently. Okay, so you might have also picked a goal that was too difficult to achieve for your desired time frame. So you can fix this obstacle by choosing realistic goals based on where your fitness level is currently at. Okay, where you're currently at. Don't base your goals off of what you looked like or weighed at an earlier age. All right, this is one of the things that drives me crazy as a trainer. Right? People trying to get back to, how they looked, in high school or college or something like that. All right, so that's a good way to drive yourself crazy as well. So doing this is likely going to lead to disappointment and will make you feel like you're not making progress when in fact you actually are. So you can also hire a coach to work with you and help you set realistic goals. So if one is out of your budget, all right, which is very common, no big deal, there are other ways around that. So you can consider finding a gym that does group classes and personal training. And you can meet with the trainer or coach only once a month maybe, or every other week while you do the classes or your own workouts. You're going to save money that way and still have a coach in your back pocket that you can meet with occasionally to help keep you accountable. Or you can you can also consider working with somebody online. That tends to be a little bit cheaper as well. Right. The last obstacle is time constraints, right, or a lack of a gym to go to. So this is related, right, to your perception of control. And remember what I said earlier about making your health and fitness a priority in your life. If you do, you will find time in your day to exercise. But if you really can't make it to the gym, if you really can't, or you can't afford one, relatively simple exercise modalities, right? So a modality is just a type of exercise, okay? Like walking, running, cycling, weightlifting, those are all modalities. So simpler ones like the walking, running, or cycling may be a better option, or body weight exercises at home. And they may become more easily habitual, rather than ones that are complex, like attending an organized fitness class. So you have to be willing to try different things and be willing to accept that some things may not work for you, and that's fine, but you need to go through that process to figure out what is going to work with you or work for you. Don't just use it as an excuse to stop. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up this episode by offering some closing comments and advice based on my personal experiences. So, and some of these I may have touched on already, but it's okay. It's always worth it to hear again. So first, choose a type of exercise that produces immediate, satisfactory experiences. Give yourself some little wins right in the beginning, okay? And choose a type of exercise that can be completed within the boundaries of your capabilities. Like I said before, meet yourself where you are at. Just be brutally honest with yourself. Okay, I'm at this point, I'm at this fitness level, I'm at this body fat percentage or weight or whatever, all right? And get after it, okay? Start making forward progress. So a good place to start for cardio, for example, is some sort of low impact modality like cycling, rowing, elliptical. Start with 30 minutes of an exercise intensity that allows you to maintain a conversation, but only one sentence or two at a time before you need to catch your breath. So that would be equivalent to somewhere around a 4 to 6 out of 10 on an effort scale. Okay, so you can use, it's called a talk test, all right? If you say, for example, you're trying to talk to someone, even if you're working out by yourself, okay? If you can only say a sentence or two at a time before you need to catch your breath, then you're probably working at the moderate intensity. But if you're working at a low intensity, you can hold like multiple sentences at a time, and you won't feel like you're out of breath at all. Okay, so that's a really good strategy to figure out how hard you're working. Okay, so a lot of people go to the gym and they're like, yeah, I'm always at the gym, and I'm not seeing anything. Well, are you actually working hard enough? And a talk test is a way to tell you, all right, if you're working hard enough. So going back to the 30 minutes, if that 30 minutes is too long and you just can't sustain it, then you could break it up into 3 sets of 10 minutes with 2 minutes of rest in between, for example. So also, I strongly recommend incorporating some sort of resistance training, like that's, also synonymous with, so you'll hear resistance training, strength training, weightlifting. All these are synonymous with each other, all right? They all mean, pretty much the same thing, all right? You're using resistance through the form of weights or cables or bands, all right, to challenge you and build some strength in your muscles. Okay, so you can incorporate that into your routine. Building muscle is actually also very, very important for overall health and fat loss. And I'm going to cover this topic way more in detail in a later episode, right? But in general, all right, you could start with 6 exercises. Okay, so you can use this approach. 2 upper body, 2 lower body, 2 core, 2 times per week. Okay, so straight 2s across. So make your upper body exercises 1 pushing exercise, like a bench press, for example, and 1 pulling exercise, like a row. Your lower body exercises, you can make one of them a squatting exercise, like a bodyweight squat, or and 1 hinging exercise. So hinging just means you're hinging your hips backwards and you're working a little bit more of the muscles in the back of your body, like your back, your glutes, all right, which are your butt muscles, your hamstrings. So that could be in the form of a kettlebell deadlift. And your 2 core exercises can be 1 isometric, which means you're not moving essentially. So that could be like a plank. And 1 dynamic, which means you are moving, right, through a range of motion, like feet anchored sit-ups. Okay, so you could start with 2 to 3 sets of 10 repetitions, right, for each exercise, unless it's a timed exercise like a plank. In that case, you could start with, anywhere from like 10 to 30 seconds, okay, whatever is going to challenge you. And cycle through them in 1 big superset. Okay, and think about resting between 30 seconds and 1 minute between exercises. However, that's going to be dictated on your schedule or by your schedule how much time you have to devote at the gym. Maybe you just want to cycle through all the exercises and then just rest at the end of that one large superset. And that's also very good to do with the types of exercises that I just talked about with opposing muscle groups, because you can do, say, for example, a pushing exercise with your upper body, and you won't need any rest for that pulling exercise because it's working opposing muscle groups. And you could just go from one to the next without needing to rest, and then you get your 1 minute of rest at the end of the big, large superset at the end of those 6 exercises. So that's a pretty good strategy that you can mess around with. Next is focusing on proximal outcomes. Okay, so for example, just being consistent with the new behavior and focusing on how you feel rather than on how you look. Okay, so this is another way of giving yourself a quick win, right off the bat. Okay, focus on how you're feeling. Your looks are not going to change after 1 or 2 or 3 or even 10 exercise sessions. Focus on your energy levels, your ability to think clearer, your confidence, that kind of stuff. Okay, if it's also in your budget, look at getting regular blood tests, okay, to monitor your blood biomarkers in the short term rather than aesthetics and performance in the long term. Okay, so you could do this through your doctor or check out a website called insidetracker.com, which I'll link to below. I've actually used this service for a while and track my own biomarkers, and I really like it. You know, it's something I've used for years, and something I really like to track outside of the actual, doctor's office. But if you're that can be out of pocket and it can get a little pricey. So if it's not in your budget, then just go through your doctor, get regular blood tests, every 6 months, usually they do one, or every 6 months to a year. If you want more frequent ones, then talk to your doctor and see if they could do a little bit more frequently, like every few months. Especially when you're first starting an exercise program, you could see huge results in just a couple months, like blood glucose and your cholesterol numbers, that sort of stuff. You can see huge results in just a couple months, whereas your body fat may not have come off as much in that period of time. All right, so really consider that. Also, focus on moving well, smoothly, and efficiently, and developing good form with your exercises. All right, that's another huge marker of progress. Okay, initially, especially if you're doing resistance training exercises, your movements are going to be choppy. They're not going to be fluid. They're going to be a little shaky. You're going to kind of feel like Bambi a little bit, right? If you know the deer, from way back when that I'm talking about, that cartoon movie. All right, so as you continue, your form is going to get a lot better. And while your form gets a lot better, your muscles and your joints are also going to be moving optimally, and that's going to allow you to progress better and faster and build more strength and get more confident in yourself, right? So that's another thing you can focus on. So try not to focus on distal outcomes, okay? So everything I just mentioned, those are proximal outcomes, meaning they're close, they're short term. That's what you should be focusing on, the short term. Distal outcomes, all right, are further away. Okay, so these are a little bit more long-term, right? For example, weight or body fat loss or muscle gain or what you see in the mirror or how your clothes fit. So these results typically take much more time to realize, and they can be discouraging, okay, if you obsess over them. So in the beginning, focus on those proximal outcomes, and then later on, all right, you can start monitoring those distal ones that are further away and that take a lot longer of a time. Okay, so also focus on short-term advantages, okay, like getting an energetic start to your day. That's going to translate to more work productivity, or the social experience if you're exercising with a friend. and use those to increase your probability of immediate satisfactory experiences. Okay, those little wins. So lastly, continue educating yourself on exercise types that you enjoy to ensure that you're sticking with them and you don't lose focus. Okay, so you have to, life, is a continual learning process. You have to continue educating yourself, also making sure you don't get bored with things. There's a ton of stuff out there. There's always something more to learn. Okay, so you can consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. It's at Wolffpack Fitness, and that's Wolffpack with 2 F's. And check out the brief exercise demonstrations I have available in my playlist tab. All right, that'll help you. That'll give you some ideas about what you can do. All right, what sort of different exercise types you could do, and leave me a comment if you have any specific questions or if you need guidance and you're lost and you're not exactly sure what to do or how to get started. Okay, so here's what to do for this week's action item or challenge. So regardless of your exercise experience, first thing you're going to do is identify your obstacles or barriers to exercise. You're going to write them down and you're going to put them in a place you can see them frequently to keep them in conscious awareness. So, if you have no experience with exercise whatsoever and you're out of shape, here's what you're going to do. 1 to 2 times this week, you're going to complete one form of physical activity. Okay, some examples are going to be a 30-minute walk, a 20 to 30-minute bike ride, row or elliptical or other low-impact cardio activity. You're not going to run. Okay, you are not going to run. That is high impact, and this is a whole different podcast episode, but running is, for someone who has never exercised before, it is extremely high risk, all right, to try to lose weight that way, and to try to maintain, especially if your running form is not there and you've never done it before and you're already over the weight that you want to be. Okay, so choose a low impact activity. You could also swim too, or if you really want to run, go to a pool, all right, and do some running in the shallow end. All right, that'll take some of the load off of your muscles, joints, and tendons. Okay, so that's going to challenge you just past your current physical abilities or your comfort level. Okay, so whichever exercise modality you choose, challenge yourself just past your comfort level. So pair the exercise with something you already like to do. Okay, watch a movie or a show, listen to a podcast or audiobook, or go get your favorite drink at the local coffee shop afterward. I don't care, all right, if it's a double mocha frappuccino, whatever, with extra pumps of this and that. I don't care, all right? It's something you enjoy doing right now, okay? Pair it with the new exercise behavior, and you'll start to make positive associations between the two, and you'll start to view exercise as a positive experience. You can change, all right, your drink at a later day to make it a healthier one, all right? But for right now, I don't care. All right, just pair that positive experience with exercise. So write down what other experience, action, or situation was paired with your exercise, and think to yourself, can you turn this into a habit stack? All right, can you pair those two behaviors together and make them sustainable? Okay. Also, note how you feel afterward. Was your exercise a successful or unsuccessful one? Was it positive or negative? And if it was a positive experience, then repeat that activity later in the week. If it was a negative experience, write down or think about how you can turn it into a positive experience. Was the negative experience within your control or out of your control? Become aware of these things. Make a small change to your experience by making it a more positive one, and repeat that activity later in the week. Okay? That's if you had a negative experience with it. So hopefully the second time was a positive experience. And if not, leave me a question or a comment so I can help you. So If you have some experience or lots of experience with exercise, but you're coming back after a long hiatus, do exactly the same thing I explained to someone without any experience. But I challenge you to meet yourself where you're currently at with your physical abilities and don't overdo it. Push yourself just past your current comfort level, not where you left off in the past. Okay, if it's been a few months since you've exercised and you think you're just going to jump back in, all right, and do whatever weight for how many, reps you were doing when you stopped, I promise you, your body is not ready for it. Your mind is probably ready for it, but your body is not ready for it, okay? And your risk of injury is going to increase, okay? So you might have to take a little bit of a step back. If you lifted weights, back off the overall load or the volume so you're not incredibly sore all week. If you did cardio only, back off the distance and intensity to start back up. If you did a combination of the two, back off your weekly frequency. So meaning complete 2 to 3 workouts this week rather than 5 to 6 to start back up. All right, guys. So that's it for this episode. Go get your action item done for the week and tune into the next episode for some more great content. All right. Thanks, Wolffpack. Talk to you guys next time. Thank you for listening. If you like the content, be sure to follow my podcast, leave a review, and check out the show notes for additional details and links discussed in this episode. My mission is to provide you with actionable knowledge in the areas of fitness, nutrition, stress management, and psychology. It is often said that knowledge is power, but I like to say that knowledge applied is even more powerful. Take what you learned today and find a way to apply it to your lifestyle so you can continue living your best life. Thanks, and be sure to activate the new episode notifications to be the first to learn about new and exciting content. See you next time.